Are you ready?
Greetings, my naughty little mosh pit, and you know, I feel like I've given off this false impression that I don't like Kingdom Hearts 2. This isn't true. I personally enjoy the Disney-themed Azura's Wrath prequel a good bit. I just ended up being more critical of it because the KH2 FM glazers act like it's perfect, when several things it does are done better in other games like KH1, KH3, or Birth by Sleep. However, KH2 does have a lot of cool set pieces and an excellent story, and its combat, while not the complex and stylish combat that the 2FM fanboys pretend it is still really fun in my honest opinion. One aspect of KH2 I'm personally a big fan of is its drive forms. Due to being a lifelong Dragon Ball Z fan, I'm an absolute slut for super forms and transformations being used in action-based media. Now, before we begin the list, I do need to discuss some rules because I feel like if I don't, the comments will have more actuallys than the average Reddit post. Let's rip the bandage off. Anti-form is not being considered as a drive form for the sake of this ranking video. Anti-form can't be used traditionally like the actual drive forms. It more so acts as a mechanic to prevent newbies from overusing drives as a crutch. It's an aspect of KH2 I really like, the fact it actually wants to encourage the player to use its mechanics rather than relying on a press X to win to get out of jail free card. Regardless, due to this RNG factor with anti-form, it won't be counted as a drive form for this ranking video. That's honestly the only real rule I want to put in place. This whole segment is just here so nobody whines about anti not being included in the ranking. Alright, so with any ranking video on a subject where none of the options are bad outright, it's always going to be a struggle to properly categorize which item is at the lowest spot. However, with drive forms, it was quite easy to say Valor form is the weakest form overall. Valor is not a bad form by any means. It does give Sora his high jump ability, which is super handy because Sora's base jump is incredibly weak out of the gate in my opinion. However, the thing with Valor form is that it's incredibly basic compared to the other forms, and usually by the time I unlock high jump for base Sora and get Wisdom form, I almost never use Valor form again. It just leads to Valor being a form I only particularly use during the start of a new playthrough. Like, anything Valor form does outside of giving Sora high jump is done better and more interestingly by the other drive forms that will be higher up on this list. I will say, Valor form does look pretty cool if it's a red and black color palette, but all the drive forms have pretty solid designs overall, so it's yet again not anything special for Valor in particular. Valor form is just a form I have very little to say about, and it's at the bottom of this list for that reason. It's a good form, but it's also incredibly basic when compared to the other drives, which, granted, could be seen as reasonable since Valor is the first drive you get, so there's no reason to make it insanely cool or interesting as it is merely the starting form. But fuck! It just leads to Valor being ranked lowest on the list. Can you tell I'm dragging this section out due to not having anything to say yet? So, funny thing, despite what the fanboys would have you believe, KH2FM is not vanilla KH2. There's many things that vanilla KH2 didn't have that people just forget about whenever they need to act like KH2FM is somehow better than KH3 Remind. One of the things KH2 didn't have till Final Mix was dodge roll. Yes, I'm being serious. KH2 originally didn't have a basic dodge function that was in the first Kingdom Hearts. Speaking of the first Kingdom Hearts, this next drive form is one big love letter to Kingdom Hearts 1. Limit form is exclusive to Final Mix and calls back to Kingdom Hearts 1, giving Sora several abilities from that game, and taking on a palette similar to how Sora's original outfit from KH1 looked, with the red, white, and black palette. While in Limit form, the Magic tab in the command menu was replaced by a Limit tab, allowing Sora to use MP to activate various limit attacks Sora had in KH1. As someone who considers KH1 FM to be the best game in the series, I personally really do appreciate all the fan service on display for KH1 within this form. Also, since it's the only drive form that doesn't require Donald and or Goofy to activate, you can use Limit form during boss fights such as Sephiroth or Roxas. This is actually kinda useful for me, as it can be used as an additional way of regaining full health in the heat of a tough battle. I think my only real complaint with Limit form is how it gains EXP. Limit form gains 1 experience point for every successful use of Sora's limits, specifically the final attack of a limit. Now, this is fine and all, but because Limit uses MP, it results in Limit form taking longer to level up compared to other drive forms, which is what knocks this otherwise fantastic form down to the 4th place spot. It's not a massive problem, but mixed with KH2's rather simple combat, it can make the grind a bit noticeable, which isn't usually the case for other drives, or even standard leveling up. Anyway, you also play Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix. It's actually a peak action RPG. Y'all have heard of Valor form. Now get ready for the cooler Valor form. That being Master form. Master form to me is basically just Valor form upgraded. I hinted back in the Valor segment that there were other forms that do what Valor does better, in my opinion, and Master form was 90% of what I was foreshadowing to when I said that. Leveling Master form up to level 3 results in Sora getting one of his best movement mechanics, that being aerial dodge. The Master form in general is very much focused on aerial combat, and it's no secret that when it comes to combat mechanics, I'm a big fan of aerial combat and juggling enemies within the air. Just peep any of my Hi-Fi Rush combo clips if you don't believe me. As such, of course Master form is higher up on the ranking for me, with that massive focus on aerial combat and movement. Of course, like Valor form, Sora dual wields Keyblades in this form as well, but of course, it's cooler than it was in Valor form. I'm also a massive fan of Master form's colors. A black and yellow color palette is usually really slick looking, and I also really like the bone-shaped X's on Sora's pants when in Master form. Honestly, despite how much I don't like the game,
The Bouncer
had some pretty dope-ass aesthetics, and I feel a lot of visual style reflected on Master form, especially with those Dog Street-esque bone decals. I also feel like, since Master form gains EXP through Drive Orbs, it results in an easier grind to level the form up alongside just the fact the form is fun to use in combat. I also really like the combo finisher it has, where Sora spins around and traps enemies in a cool tornado-like attack. Dope as fuck. Master is only at the number 3 spot because the top 2 forms are just way cooler to me. It's entirely biased, I promise. Alright, so imagine this. What if the Keyblade was also a gun? So anyway, this spot is about Wisdom form. Wisdom form is the second drive you unlock in KH2, and is the reason Valor form tends to go straight to the Shadow Realm the second Wisdom is available, because Wisdom is just so much cooler in concept. For starters, Wisdom form's level up reward is Quick Run, which is another movement ability for Sora to use. It's really good for dodging, just like Dodge Roll, and in some places, it might even be a better option for dodging than Dodge Roll. Wisdom is probably the coolest looking of any of the drive forms, with this radical blue and black palette mixed with these really cool flame decals all over the outfit. Not just that, but Sora's run is replaced by this skating effect, where Sora skates in the air via magical particles. Sora's idle animation also has him holding the Keyblade backwards and spinning it around behind him, which is uber cool in my opinion. I wonder if this was a subtle reference to Ventus. Another case of KH foreshadowing, perhaps? Regardless, Wisdom form's main appeal is that it's more magic focused. Sora uses the Keyblade like a gun and shoots magic blasts rather than swinging the Keyblade. This form comes in really handy for me as I tend to enjoy comboing using magic in KH2. I know, rare since most KH2 players pretend magic doesn't exist outside of Cure, and then they wonder why Zaldin and Demyx give them such a hard time. Overall, Wisdom form is without a doubt one of the most underrated drives in the game. I'm really glad it was included as one of Sora's ults in Super Smash Bros. Because Wisdom just deserves more love overall. Like, holy fuck. Okay, so I think most can agree that one of the best parts of KH2 as a whole is Roxas. Roxas is without a doubt one of the best parts of KH2 narratively. His story of seeking himself despite his origin as Sora's nobody, his genuine confusion upon learning his life was a lie, and overall his really cool design and use of dual Keyblades that represent Riku and Kairi, all of it turns to make Roxas a really cool and appealing character to me. I personally consider Roxas to be one of the strongest aspects of KH2. Now, you might be wondering why I'm hyper-focusing on the subject of Roxas. Well, it's because Final Form is very Roxas-themed. Hell, the only way to unlock it is by using Master Form and having it randomly appear, and even then, you gotta wait till after the Roxas boss fight before you can obtain it. Final Mix makes it easier too, because equipping 2 become 1 makes the chances higher, and I still consider it the best drive form. Yes, I know it's pretty unoriginal to make the objectively best drive form the top spot on a ranking list, but I can't begin to tell you how there's a genuine reason for this placement. It's got this sleek, black and white color palette, Sora's floating in the air and wielding dual Keyblades via magic, having them float behind him. Sora basically obtains Ultra Instinct, and this was a solid decade before Ultra Instinct was even a concept. Another thing Final Form has going for it is the ability it gives base Sora, that being Glide. If you're a KH fan, you'll remember Glide from KH1, and in KH2, the Glide's elevation gets better as you continue to level up Final Form. And considering how incredibly OP it is, you're likely to level it up with ease, especially because All it requires is for you to defeat nobodies while the form is active. Honestly, Wisdom and Final Form could easily swap spots on this list because I do like both forms just as much as the other. So that's that. I do apologize that this video felt short. Admittedly, this was meant to be a filler video as I have way bigger videos in the works both essay and animation wise. But I also made this video because I wanted to talk about KH2 in a more positive light, as it's pretty well known among people who watch my streams that I can be critical of the game. Kingdom Hearts 2 is a good game. Despite the overrated status it's obtained within the KH fandom, I think it's got a lot going for it as a game. This was the first KH game I ever played, and it has so many cool set pieces, visuals, and with things like the Triforms, it did offer unique mechanics that would never return in later games. Luckily, KH3 would adapt the concept of Triforms and the Keyblade forms, which I might rank those in the future, but that's yet to be determined. I've been the Girly Wolf Pup, and I'll see you next time.